There's a massive legal battle headed for India's Supreme Court. And honestly, the outcome could change pretty much everything about your smartphone. What apps you use, how you pay for them, and just how much power one company gets to have over your entire digital life. Welcome to The Explainer. And what this whole thing really boils down to is a simple question of fairness in a place that, let's face it, we all visit every single day. This is so true, isn't it? I mean, think about it. Your phone is basically just a slab of glass and metal. It's the apps for ordering food, streaming movies, connecting with your family. That's what makes it so indispensable. But to get those apps, almost all of us have to go through one single place. And that one place is the Google Play Store. It helps to think of it like a giant digital shopping mall. But here's the twist. What if the mall owner was also the architect, the only security guard, processed every single payment, and ran their own giant store right smack in the middle of it all, competing with their own tenants? That's the heart of this conflict. Google has a ton of control over every other shop trying to do business in its mall.
All right, so let's dig into the first piece of this puzzle. What's the price of admission? What does it actually cost for a developer to set up shop in this digital mall?
First, let's talk about just how dominant this mall is. Over 95% of all smartphones in India run on Android. So we're not just talking about a popular mall. For most people, it's pretty much the only mall in town. Okay, so for most app developers, about 97% of them, getting a spot on the Play Store is actually pretty cheap. A one-time $25 registration fee and boom, you're in. But for that other 3%, the ones who actually make money by selling their apps or digital goods inside them, like dating app subscriptions or items in a game, well, the cost is way, way higher. This is that price of admission. Google takes a mandatory 15 to 30% commission, what some people call the Google tax, on every single digital purchase. When you buy a subscription or an in-game power-up, Google gets a huge slice of that pie before the developer even sees a rupee. So let's break down how this works in the real world, because this is key. Let's say you pay 1,000 rupees for a subscription to a service. Before that money ever reaches the app developer, Google skims its 300 rupee cut right off the top. The developer is left with just 700 rupees to cover all their costs. We're talking salaries, marketing, servers, the whole shebang. Now, you might be thinking, wait, why don't developers just tell people to pay them on their website and skip the fee? Well, Google is way ahead of you. They have rules called anti-steering provisions. It's a fancy way of saying developers are totally forbidden from even hinting that there's a cheaper way to pay somewhere else. You can't add a link, you can't even put up a message. They're locked in.
Okay, so this isn't just about paying a high rent to be in the mall. The plot thickens because there are accusations that the mall owner is basically rigging the game to make sure its own shops do better than everyone else's.
And this is where that whole playing favorites thing gets really, really clear. Take an app like Disney Plus Hotstar. It has to use Google's billing system, and it has to pay that big 15 to 30% commission. But then you look at Google's own app, YouTube, and suddenly the rules are different. It's exempt. It gets to use other payment systems and pays just a tiny fraction of that fee. I mean, that's a huge competitive advantage, and it's baked right into the system.
And this alleged favoritism doesn't stop there. It even seems to affect how you pay for things using UPI. If you use Google Pay inside another app, it's a breeze. One click, and you're done. But what happens when you try to use a competitor, like PhonePe? All of a sudden, you're jumping through hoops, manually typing in your ID, switching apps, approving a request. It's night and day. And critics say, come on, this isn't an accident. It feels like it's designed to be clunky. So does that little bit of friction actually matter? You bet it does. Just look at the numbers. Out in the open market, outside the Play Store, PhonePe is the king of UPI transactions. But the second you step inside the Play Store's world, who has the biggest share? Google Pay. It's like the design of the system itself is giving Google's own product a massive leg up. But maybe the most powerful advantage of all is the one you can't even see, and that's data. Think about it. By forcing all these payments through its own system, Google gets this God's eye view of the entire app economy. It knows which apps are popular, who their biggest spending customers are, everything. Competitors like Hungama and MapMyIndia have argued that this is like giving Google their entire playbook, which it could then use to push its own products, like YouTube Music or Google Maps. So, with all of this tension building up, you can probably guess what happened next. The whole thing landed in court. Let's walk through that legal roller coaster. The case first went to the Competition Commission of India, or CCI, and this really breaks down the whole debate. For every point, there were two totally different stories. Google says, hey, the commission is our fair reward for building this amazing platform. The CCI says, no, that's extortion. Google says, favoring YouTube, it's our company, it's our money. The CCI says, nope, that's discriminatory. Google calls the smoother Google Pay experience innovation. The CCI calls it discrimination. You see the pattern here? So here's how it all played out. Back in 2022, the CCI came down hard on Google, ruling against them on pretty much everything and slapping them with a huge fine. Google appealed. That took it to a higher tribunal, the NCLAT, which in 2023 kind of split the difference. It threw out some parts of the CCI's ruling but said, yeah, Google is still in the wrong for the forced billing and that unfair UPI system. But they also slashed the fine way down. And now Google still isn't happy. So it's all heading to the final boss, the Supreme Court.
And that brings us right up to today. The Supreme Court is now faced with this massive decision. And honestly, the stakes for India's digital future could not be higher.
This is exactly why this isn't just some tech industry squabble. This matters to all of us. For millions of people in India, their smartphone is their main computer, their bank, their connection to the world. So the rules of that digital world are incredibly important. What the court decides here is going to set the blueprint for how India deals with the power of big tech for years to come.
So at the end of the day, it all boils down to one huge, fundamental question. Should a company that basically holds the keys to the internet for an entire country be treated just like any other business, focused only on its own profits? Or does that incredible power come with a special duty, a responsibility to keep the marketplace fair, open, and competitive for everybody? There's no easy answer, but the one the Supreme Court chooses will define all of our digital lives for years to come.